Marvel World Unleashed, Villain Resurrects Ancient Gods from Myth. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 21. After the prompt sounded, the 5 cards lay quietly in Leon's backpack. Leon looked at them one by one. Special Scene Construction card can be used to create a certain scene. The scene can be generated according to the host's own needs to generate corresponding limited rules. The scope of the scene is up to 400 square kilometers. The scene is accompanied by a maximum number of first-order creatures of no more than 500 or ordinary creatures with a number of no more than 10 W. The scene will exist forever, and cannot be manipulated by people other than the host, including but not limited to destruction, movement and other acts. Random Rule card. Partial. After using this card, you will randomly get a rule power, but because it is not a complete card, you cannot get the full rule. Chaotic Time-Space Travel card. After using this card, it will randomly travel through time and space, and the arrival coordinates will be related to the current environment. The time is 1 year, and it will automatically return when it expires, and the original spacetime will remain suspended during the crossing. And the history will automatically produce reasonable corrections after the crossing ends. Parallel Universe Random Crossing card. After using this card, it will cross into a random parallel universe for half a year, and will automatically return when it expires, and the original time and space will remain suspended during the travel period. The Shelter Kata didn't want to see it. After all, Liang had already used it before. But it did give Liang an additional surprise. It can be used to expand the scope of current shelters. If it were used in bookstores, the scope of the system's power would be tripled. Liang immediately used it. This is nothing to hesitate about. The system immediately prompts the shelter range too. Then Leon focused his attention on the remaining 4 cards again. Each of these 4 cards can be said to be extremely satisfactory to Liang. All he could say was that it is worthy of being opened by SSS-level treasure chests. The main thing is a bull. Take the first special scenario build card as an example. The Cthulhu statue he created before was only a first-order creation, but the impact was obvious to all. However, this special scene building card can directly attach 500 first-order creatures. What does this represent? There is no need to say more. But for now, except for the rule card, which can be used now, the remaining 3 cards need to wait until a suitable time to use. Otherwise, it would be wasteful. Leon took out the rule card from his backpack. The card is the size of a playing card, but the shimmering sheen on its surface makes it difficult to look away. Leon broke it gently. In an instant, an esoteric power was born in his body. Then, he closed his eyes involuntarily. In this moment, he saw the scene of countless lives dying, and at the same time saw countless pictures of life rebirth. Along with this cycle of the picture of the cycle of life reincarnation, the collapse and reorganization of the stars of the universe began to repeat before his eyes. At this moment, he understood from the root what death is and what is rebirth. Death is rebirth, and rebirth is death. Everything can only be reborn through death. Is only the death of life called death? Non also. Stones turn to dust due to weathering, and stars collapse and erupt due to time. How is this not their death? Death is both the end and the beginning of everything. When he realized everything, he opened his eyes again. At the same time, he also knew the name of the rule he had got. Death. This is the name from which everything can never escape. It is also the name that gives birth to everything. Liang exhaled gently. He looked at the greenery on the table in front of him. The mind turned. The greenery withered. But the next moment, it grew vigorously again. Liang looked at the changes in this green plant, and he had a clear understanding of the application of the rules of death. He can give death to something, but why can't he strip death away from it? Death. It has never been as simple as ordinary people understand. After testing the power of the rules he had just obtained, the corners of Liang's mouth curved. Although it was only part of the power of death, the mystery of this was too satisfying for him. He opens the main interface of the system. Host, Liang. Strength level, late 3rd order. Impact points, 653,152. Number of fabrications, 1. Shelter, 1. Originally, after receiving 1/10 of Cthulhu's strength, his strength level was only at the beginning of the 3rd order. But after only absorbing part of the death rules, he reached the late 3rd order. It is enough to see the power of rules. I'm curious about how powerful the power of the complete rules of death is. Liang felt a little emotion in his heart. He suddenly thought of the goddess of death in Marvel. According to Marvel's setting, the other party is one of the 5 creation gods in the multiverse, controlling the complete rule of death. He couldn't help but guess how powerful the other party really was. And at the same time, in the realm of the dead in the shadows of the infinite multiverse, the goddess of death was surprised to cast her gaze into the infinite multiverse in front of her. The goddess of death, who has existed since eternity, has never been so curious and surprised by the universe in front of her as she is today. It's the breath of death. The goddess of death murmured, and she slowly extended her finger to a corner of the multiverse in front of her. What emerged from the heavy black robe was a finger bone that emitted a cold white light, which made people shudder. And because of the mood swings of the goddess of death, the country of death, which has maintained dead silence all day, has become restless today. Infinite white bones churn like the rolling waves of the ocean. Endless ghosts flew as if frightened. And the source of it all? It was only because of the sudden curiosity of the goddess of death. Episode 22. After feeling the power of the rules, Liang turned his attention to the influence points. A total of 65 W of influence points. Ordinary people provide 22 W, and plot characters provide 43 W. In comparison with the number of 220,000 ordinary people, there are only 4 plot characters. Nick Fury, Natasha, Hawkeye, Coulson. And these 4 people are not yet full of trust in Cthulhu. But even the least trusted egg gave Liang 34,000 influence points. This made Liang deeply realize the importance of the plot characters. No matter how many ordinary people are deceived, it is not as good as letting a plot character fall completely. However, there is also a point that makes Liang think. Nick Fury's trust level is 34%, so it provides 34,000 impact points. That's a multiplier of 10,000. Natasha has a trust rating of 67% and provides 201,000 influence points. This is a multiplier of 30,000. Hawkeye has a trust level of 62% and provides 124,000 impact points. That's a multiplier of 20,000. The magnification of the 3 people is different. What is the reason for this? Liang suddenly thought of the roles and popularity of the 3 in Marvel in his previous life. Natasha, Hawkeye, Nick Fury. Is multiplier related to this? Liang tried his guess to ask the system, and finally got an affirmative answer. This made Liang think again. Who was the most famous person in the Marvel series in the previous life? Tony Stark. As well as Team America. These 2 people can be said to be the pillars of the Marvel series in previous lives. If Natasha can provide 30,000 times the number of influence points, then what should these 2 be multipliers? Liang's heart moved slightly when he thought of this, and the corners of his mouth quietly outlined a tiny arc. He seems to have found the next person worth making up in a targeted manner. Liang walked out of the bookstore. The sun was shining outside and today was a superb day. On the wall of the tall building opposite the bookstore, a huge poster is being put up. The workers stepped on the hanging board and tried to glue the 4 corners of the poster. And when the poster was completely glued, Tony Stark's deliberately cool figure is shining in the sun. Leon looked at Stark on the poster and smiled softly. That's it. Tony Stark, get ready for the dream I have for you. The top floor of the Stark Tower. Tony Stark suddenly felt a chill, followed by a loud sneeze. It seems that some girl is thinking about me again. Tony muttered while wiping his nose. But then he stood up and strode out of the office. Bang. He casually pushed the door open and looked at Nat, who was sorting out the papers outside, and asked, "Hey, where's Pepper?" Natasha, disguised as Natasha, immediately responded, "Oh, Miss Potts went to buy breakfast." Tony looked helpless when he heard this. God, my assistant is really free, can he leave without my consent? Ms. Potts reported to you, Mr. Stark. Tony was not embarrassed at all in the face of Nate's debunking. Instead, he pointed at Nate and said, "Hey, Nate, you know what? A good secretary, even if he knows that there is something wrong with his boss's words, should not debunk it." Natasha gave an appropriately awkward smile. Just as she was about to say something more, Pepper Potts came over. "Tony, are you teasing Nate again?" Oh my god, please look like a boss. Stop, Pepper, did you make a mistake? You're just my assistant, you're not my mother, and even if it's my mom, she doesn't care how I manage the company. Tony Stark's words made Pepper roll her eyes. Okay, so can Mr. Tony go to work now? Pepper said to Tony as he put the burger he had bought. Instead of replying, Tony walked straight in Pepper's direction. Huh? Tony, what are you going to do? In Pepper's surprised and strange eyes, Tony directly picked up Pepper's burger and looked at it twice. Damn, it's not a cheeseburger. Tony's casual behavior made Pepper angry. Enough, Tony. Put down my burger and do your job. Pepper crossed his waist and shouted at Tony with great momentum. Tony put down the burger and said a little helplessly. Really, how can you get angry so easily? I'm just kidding. The playboy, as he was known to the world, retreated to his office as he spoke. Pepper sighed, then looked at Natasha and asked. Nat, he didn't bully you, did he? No, Mr. Stark just asked me where you went. That's good. Pepper then sat down for breakfast. She came in a hurry today and didn't eat breakfast at all. Natasha continued to organize the papers. She couldn't help but have some doubts in her heart. She had been obeying Nick Fury's orders to come to the Stark mansion to observe Stark for several days. She really doesn't think this playboy has the potential to join the Avengers. Let the other party guard the Earth? Tut. It's so unreliable. Episode 23. Before Tony could sit down in the office, he received a call from his friend James Roddy. Tony, don't forget the weapon display the day after tomorrow. Listening to Roddy's voice on the phone, Tony said casually. I changed my mind and decided to abandon this trip to the Middle East. Between words, Tony poured himself a glass of whiskey. In his office, these are necessities. Oh. Shit. Tony, you can't play like this. You promised me. After hearing Roddy's anxiety, the corners of Stark's mouth tugged. Now his heart, which was a little unhappy because of Pepper's attitude, was refreshed. Sure enough, happiness doesn't go away. It's just shifting. Okay, Roddy, don't be so rigid, I'm just joking, didn't you hear it? Tony's nonchalant words caused Roddy on the other end of the phone to have a small breakdown. But fortunately, Roddy is used to it. He immediately adjusted his mentality and then returned to his serious appearance. Since you know. After putting this sentence aside, Roddy immediately hung up the phone. Of course, he was used to the teasing from Tony, but he didn't want to bear this experience many times. This hangs up? Gee, I can't afford to play. Tony pouted. He sat back down at his desk. But don't get me wrong. He's just using his computer to see what beautiful models are coming from now. This is important to Tony. Because it determines whether Tony will have a good night or not. While Tony was looking for a beautiful woman tonight, Leon also took his eyes back from the other party. He had probably already figured out the story he was going to make up for Tony. But now is not the time to let it happen. Leon believes. Perhaps after Tony's metamorphosis in the Middle East, it may be more appropriate to wait for that time. At that time, his mind will be more mature. When faced with the dream that Leon had prepared for him, he might behave better. He heard Roddy on the other end of the phone, and it was only 2 days before Tony's trip to the Middle East. This also means that Iron Man is about to appear in this world. At the same time, it also means that the peaceful world will set off storms and waves again and again. For ordinary people, that's a disaster. But for Leon, it was an opportunity. He is looking forward to the future. It's like an audience sitting in a theater expecting a good show. Right at this moment. With a bang, the door of the bookstore was rudely opened. Then 3 black men strode in. When he saw this scene, Liang's expression did not change at all. Hello gentlemen, do you need anything? If you need to pick a book, I can help. Liang said gently. But his gentleness was not met with a friendly response. Fark, shut your stinky mouth, yellow-skinned monkey, hand over all your money now, then I promise not to make a hole in you with a gun. Faced with the words of the leading black man, Liang laughed a little. He walked slowly from behind the counter. And along with his movement, the bookstore was also enveloped by an invisible fluctuation. This makes the bookstore extremely present. If someone walks through the bookstore, they will never care about the existence of the bookstore, or even glance at it. Hey, stop. The black man pulled out a gun and pointed it at Leon. Gentlemen, put down the gun. Liang spoke softly. In the next instant, the black man with the gun seemed to be bound by an invisible rope, completely unable to move. The remaining two blacks who saw this scene also hurriedly pulled out their guns, but the same situation was immediately ushered in. Leon walked 2 steps away from the black man. Now, the 3 blacks are immobilized and speechless. Their faces were flushed, and the muscular nerves in their foreheads and temples were swollen from the exertion, which made their flushed faces look extremely hideous. Gentlemen, I am not a racist person. I have always believed that there are good and bad groups in this world. Even the dirtiest cesshole can produce the most beautiful flowers. Even the most beautiful flower bushes will have the one that rots. But sadly, my egalitarian attitude does not usher in respect. What do you say I should do, brother and I? With the whispering of Liang's words, the bodies of the 3 blacks were also distorted and withered little by little. It is as if a stone has been weathered for thousands of years and turned into powder. Their bodies and souls were also reduced to dust. Finally, in front of Leon, there is nothing left. The bookstore was calm again, as if the 3 blacks had never broken in. Liang came to the door of the bookstore. He looked at the people coming and going on the street, and he felt something in his heart. What a rare piece right now. The land of the dead. The body of the goddess of death, who maintained a searching posture, suddenly paused. Found you. With the whispers of the goddess, her figure aimed at the multiverse in front of her and flew straight away. In the blink of an eye. It's gone. Episode 24. The night in New York is not as prosperous and glamorous as Leon boasted on the internet in his previous life. Walking in it, Liang can see many homeless people. In some remote dark alleys, you can also see addicts paralyzed on the ground. Occasionally some men passing by have some kind of impulse to commit a crime hidden in their eyes. Liang has been in this world for more than a month, and it can be said that he is very accustomed to these. What's more, this is still the Marvel Universe. If it's safe, there's a ghost. Liang didn't walk much before. Because then, he had a better and more casual way of entertainment. The entertainment here refers to watch Nick Fury and others rush around for the Cthulhu statue. But with the end of the first fabricated settlement, Liang also lost the desire to watch. Unconsciously, Liang walked in front of a bar. He pushed open the door and walked in. The atmosphere of the bar is not too noisy, the hall is crowded by a group of men, and the corner is a few scattered couples and idlers. Leon sat down at the bar, asked the bartender for a glass of bourbon, and then looked at the news on his phone. But at this moment, several drunk white men walked up to Liang's side. Their looks were rather unkind. The bartender tried to dissuade him, but was scolded back by one of the strong men. For a while, the sound of the bar fell silent. All eyes are on here. Damn yellow people, because of your arrival, I lost my job, and you rats should stay and die in your filthy country. A white man cursed viciously at Leon. The alcohol that inadvertently spewed out of his mouth was extremely strong, and the other party was wearing blue overalls, apparently a worker, or had been a worker. As he spoke, the remaining white people around him also spoke. Their words are all about yellow people taking jobs. Liang sighed silently in his heart. Today is really a bit of a water reversal. Robbed by blacks in the morning and cursed by whites in the evening. The daily life in the United States is so colorful. Just as Leon was about to solve this group of white people, a female voice suddenly sounded. Hey! What are you doing? What is the skill of a group of people bullying a person? Besides, what does it matter to him that you lost your job? Liang turned his gaze away. It was a beautiful girl with a somewhat handsome look. His long black hair was draped behind the other person's shoulders, and his fair skin was like milk. The body is great, the buttocks are upturned, and the legs are straight, which is a healthy and toned body type that belongs to the perennial exercise. The moment he saw the other party's face, Liang recognized the identity of the other party. Jessica Jones. A female superhero in the Marvel series. However, Jessica Jones in front of him is a little different from the person Liang knows. In Leon's perception, Jessica Jones is a slightly decadent and cynical image. But the girl in front of her obviously carries the vitality of the rising sun. This reminds Leon of Jessica Jones' life experience. Maybe Jessica in front of her has not experienced the ravages of the purple people? While Leon was thinking, the white men quarreled with Jessica Jones. But in the face of Jessica Jones' sharp teeth, the white men lost the battle. The bartender also issued a warning to the police. This made the group of drunken white men choose to back away for a while. Jessica Jones then looked at Leon. "Are you okay?" "Of course, thank you for the siege," Leon said with a smile at the other party. His calmness made Jessica Jones a little stunned, but then she laughed. "It seems that you are not afraid of them. My appearance is somewhat redundant." No, your appearance is still very timely," Leon said with a smile, looked at the bartender, and said, "Sir, please give this valiant lady a glass of wine she deserves." The bartender answered and mixed a glass of whiskey for Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones took it and raised a glass to Leon at the same time. "Cheers." "Of course." The two tapped their glasses. Jessica simply drank the drink, and Liang, who watched this scene, knew it in her heart. It seems that the other party's preference for drinking has always been there. "Hello, my name is Jessica Jones and I am a student at New York University." Jessica sat down and stretched out her hand to Leon. Looking at the gesture of the other party wanting to get acquainted, Liang did not refuse. At the same time, the other party's words also made Liang confirm his previous guess. Jessica Jones in front of him has indeed not yet been subjected to the destruction of the Purple Man. The other party is just a college student. "Hello, my name is Leon." Leon stretched out his hand and shook Jessica gently. What a concise introduction. "Thanks for the compliment." Leon smiled. "Li, what nationality are you?" "Strictly speaking, I am Chinese, but now I am of Chinese descent." Jessica was slightly surprised to hear this, her bright eyes sparkling in the light of the bar. "Oh my God, I thought you were a half-blood." "Why do you say that?" "Because your facial features are really handsome, very unlike traditional Asians." The boldness and directness of European and American girls are vividly displayed in Jessica's words. Liang stretched out his wine glass and smiled. "Thank you." Then he took a sip. The chat between the two by chance continues. The atmosphere of the bar is perfect for this kind of conversation. With the soft warm lighting and the not noisy words of the crowd, a faint ambiguity is also brewing between Jessica Jones and Leon. And as the protagonist of this ambiguous atmosphere, both Leon and Jessica Jones enjoyed the moment. Episode 25. When Liang left the bar, there was a beautiful figure beside him. None other than Jessica Jones. "Where are we going now?" Leon looked into Jessica Jones' eyes and smiled. "All right. So we can walk along the Hudson River, what do you think?" "Of course." The two figures gradually moved away from the bar, but after walking a short distance, they stopped. At this time, a handful of white people were standing in front of Leon and Jessica Jones. The leader is the same group of people who were looking for fault in the bar before. Seeing this, Jessica Jones immediately stopped Leon behind him. This is her subconscious act of protecting the weak since she has power. "Hey, yellow-skinned boy, don't hide behind a woman." The provocation of the white man on the opposite side did not make Liang's mood fluctuate. He would never argue with someone who was doomed. That's just a waste of tongue. "Li, don't be impulsive, leave it to me here, you call the police first." Jessica Jones turned to Leon and said. Liang pretended to agree, but did not do what the other party said. And at this moment, the white man on the opposite side seemed to can't wait to teach Leon and Jessica a lesson. They rushed towards the two. It was also at this time that Jessica showed her side as a superhero. Her fists and feet are full of power that ordinary people cannot resist. The white people fell to the ground. This scene made the white people realize that they had provoked the wrong person. But the white man who was previously angered by Jessica in the bar was enthusiastic. He pulled a pistol from his arms and pointed it at Jessica's back. But when he pulled the trigger, he found that he couldn't pull it anyway. And at this time, a calm word slowly sounded on the scene. "It's not good to move a gun." Leon's words made Jessica subconsciously turn her head. Then the girl saw a scene that shocked and surprised her heart. She saw that Liang simply moved his finger to cause the gun in the white man's hand to disintegrate and fall apart. Then all the people seemed to be bound by ropes and could not move. They all fell to the ground, unable to say a word. This bizarre scene resembles a scene from a magical story. Jessica Jones pointed at Leon and shouted in surprise. "Lee, you also have special abilities?" "It's just a little trick." Leon smiled and came to Jessica's side. Jessica's eyes kept sweeping around Leon's body. If Jessica was attracted to Leon because of Liang's humor and handsomeness before, now Jessica is surprised by Leon out of a find-the-same-kind mood. Now Tony has not yet become Iron Man, and everything bizarre and extraordinary is still hidden in the shadow of the world. Leon is really the first person Jessica has met with superpowers. This made Jessica, who has always kept her own secret, feel an indescribable sense of relief and ease. "It seems that you really don't need my help when you are at the bar." Jessica tapped Leon's chest lightly. Liang said with a smile. "No, if you don't show up, where will I go to meet you?" "You can say such beautiful things, Lee, you must have deceived girls, right?" "If it's a beautiful girl like you, I haven't met one." Leon's words made Jessica Jones' face smile one after another. Even if everyone knows that they are lies, they still like to hear them. Especially for women. Pretty words can make them happy even more. And when they are happy, it means that some behavior beyond friendship may happen next. Like now. Jessica stood on tiptoe and kissed Leon straight on the lips. "This is a reward for your nice words." "As much as I like the reward, isn't it a little too little?" Leon reached out and grabbed Jessica's waist, and the two looked at each other. Facing Liang's crisp gaze, Jessica's body was a little soft. She pressed softly to Liang's body and murmured inaudible words. "I don't want to go for a walk. I have a better place, will you come with me?" Jessica snorted softly, but then she looked at the men who had fallen to the ground. "What should these people do?" "I called the police, wait for the police to clean them up." After getting Leon's reply, Jessica also let go of her heart. Then the two walked towards the distance. Only this time, Leon's hand has naturally stroked Jessica's waist. And when the two turned and left the area where the conflict occurred, the men who fell to the ground quietly turned into fine dust. When the wind blows, the dust dissipated in the sky. Episode 26. It was already late at night. But the lights were still on in the bedroom on the second floor of Liang's bookstore. At the same time, it was accompanied by the violent shaking of the figure. From time to time, there will be a few high-pitched female voices. This has been going on since 3 hours ago. Fortunately, Liang used his ability to mask this noise, otherwise his neighbors would definitely come to the door. Finally, at 5 o'clock in the morning, Liang's figure walked out of the room. In the room, Jessica was tired and couldn't open her eyes, and within a few seconds she fell asleep. Liang came from the second floor to the first floor, and he turned on the lights of the bookstore. At 5 o'clock in the morning in New York, everything is still very quiet. On the street outside the bookstore, sanitation workers are cleaning up last night's garbage, and some early morning runners are running. Liang glanced at the outside through the doors and windows, and then looked at a corner of the store. There are bookcases, some just books. Nothing else. But Liang looked there and suddenly spoke. "Aren't you going to show up yet?" After listening to it all night, the venerable goddess of death was very interested. As Liang's voice fell, the empty corner suddenly floated a layer of ripples. Immediately afterwards, a sexy brunette dressed gracefully appeared in front of Liang. Her clothes covered several points of her body, and her exposed skin looked extremely white and tender against the background of dark clothes. Tall and focused. And the brunette girl's face can be said to be the most beautiful face that Liang has seen so far. It was an unusually beautiful look. If it weren't for knowing the identity of the woman in front of him, Liang would definitely be amazed by this face. But compared to the true identity of this woman, such a beautiful face is not so important. "It seems that you have already discovered me," the goddess of death said slowly, her gaze focused on Liang's body and kept glancing, as if she wanted to see through everything about Liang. Liang poured himself a glass of water and then said, "From the beginning, I knew you were here. Then why are you only speaking now? There is no ill will in you, and I have more important things to do at that time." The goddess of death's gaze shifted, and she saw the sleeping Jessica through the ceiling, but this did not make her care, and her eyes continued to look at Leon. "You have the breath of death rules in you, and I came for that." The goddess of death did not hide her reason for coming. Liang nodded slightly, he also guessed this reason. Or rather, from the moment he absorbed the fragments of the death rule. He knew that sooner or later he would be approached by the goddess of death. This is mutual attraction between the same rules. Regardless of where both sides stand, this attraction will not diminish. So what is the goddess Sama going to do? Liang asked as he looked at the goddess of death with a smile. The goddess of death's eyes showed a few unpredictable looks, and she did not speak immediately. The momentary silence made the atmosphere between the two sides gradually move in the direction of solemnity. Fortunately, a moment later, the goddess of death finally spoke. I originally intended to forcibly take away the fragments of the death rules from you, but now that I have changed my mind, I can detect the incredible hidden in you, and this place is very special. It is full of unique rules dominated by you. I can't forcibly fight you here. So I will wait for your death. Everything has a day of death, whether it is 1,000 years or 10,000 years, I will wait for your soul in the kingdom of death, and when that day comes, I will personally take away the fragments of the death rule from your body. The words of the goddess of death made Liang secretly relieved in his heart. In fact, his calmness and composure at the moment are a bit pretend. The woman in front of her is, after all, the goddess of death in Marvel. According to the strength of the system, the other party is probably already at the level of the fifth order. The difference of 2 levels is no joke. If it weren't for relying on the bookstore as a shelter for himself, Liang would never have dared to face the goddess of death so much. But fortunately, the direction of things is quite good. As for what the goddess of death said about waiting for Leon to die, Liang didn't think that the other party could really wait until that day. Since Lord Goddess is willing to wait, then I am also willing to cooperate. I only hope that when I arrive in the realm of death, Lord Goddess can take extra care of me. Leon smiled and looked at the goddess of death. Don't worry, I will pamper you well then. The goddess of death finally showed her own smile until now. But unlike the warmth given by an ordinary smile, her smile is endlessly cold. The moment you see it, you even feel cold. At this moment, some of the temperament belonging to the goddess of death was also slightly displayed. It was like the proudest, noblest, and most majestic queen in the world. The goddess of death said nothing, and her figure turned into black fog and disappeared here. When he noticed that the other party's aura had completely dissipated, Liang let out a long sigh of relief. But at this moment, Liang saw that a note had been left where the goddess of death had stood before. He walked over and picked it up. It was clearly written in black handwriting. Episode 27. Looking at this note, Liang was a little helpless for a while. He really messed with this goddess of death. In the world of Marvel, it is not a happy thing to attract the attention of the goddess of death. The word death alone is enough to say a lot of things. It is best not to invite trouble. This reminds him of a certain purple potato star man in the original Marvel comics. The other party is also entangled with the goddess of death, which finally led to the occurrence of Marvel's big events. Now, Liang is also entangled with the goddess of death. But unlike that Thanos, Liang was actively paid attention to by the goddess of death, and he wished that the other party did not pay attention to him. And the Thanos that triggered the big events in Marvel is the goddess of death's infatuated licking dog. Leon put the note away. He walked out of the shop and looked out into the boundless sky. He could feel the gaze from some unknown space. If he guessed correctly, it was the goddess of death. He didn't have any fear in his heart. Although the goddess of death is very strong, Liang's growth rate is fast. It had only been more than a month since he crossed over, and he had already reached the strength of the third order. As long as he is given time, with the increase in the number of fabrications, sooner or later he will reach the same level as the goddess of death or even far surpass the other party. By that time, Liang is about to take the initiative to find the goddess of death. As for what to talk about, that's what he says. Recalling the appearance and figure of the goddess of death, Liang had to say, "What a thrill! He is not to blame for this. What man can resist the temptation of the goddess of death? Thanos can't. Leon is not a saint. Now his strength is weak, so he will hold on for the time being. In the future, he will be strong, and he will continue to hold on? Isn't this?" Liang suddenly thought of the words left by the goddess of death before leaving. "Don't worry, I will pamper you well then. Wait and see." At that time, it is not necessarily who will pamper whom. Liang stared at the boundless sky in the distance, his eyes reached the depths of the universe, and in the endless depths lurked his own ambition. The land of the dead. The goddess of death returned to her throne. The kingdom of death, which had been agitated by her brief departure, once again became dead silent. Her appearance once again changed back to that white and bone-covered, terrifying posture. This is her, and the woman with an otherworldly appearance is also her. As a god, there is never just one gesture. Her empty eyes flashed with a cold and terrifying spark, and her gaze looked at the endless multiverse on the edge of the death realm. As usual, she would patrol the endless multiverse for some fun. But now, her eyes were focused on only one person. The figure was in front of a bookstore on Earth, looking up. His eyes pierced through the void, as if he was trying to search for something. The goddess of death knew what he was looking at. You can also see the hidden disrespect for the gods in the eyes of the other party. But it was precisely because of the other party's disrespectful eyes that the corners of the goddess of death's mouth curved. Interesting. The whispers of the goddess of death echoed through the endless kingdom of death. In an instant, countless bones and souls are churning. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Jessica's alarm clock went off fixedly. She was irritated and wanted to turn off the phone, but the ensuing exhaustion and pain in all aspects of her skin made her moan. It had been a long, long time since Jessica gained her own superpowers. At the same time, she also thought about last night. She secretly scolded the pervert. This was followed by an effort to get out of bed. After a simple wash, she saw the breakfast that Leon had left for her on the table. This made Jessica smile heartily. After eating, she came to the bookstore on the first floor, where Liang was reading an ancient travelogue, and she said hello to Liang. "Good morning, Leon." "Well, good morning." Leon glanced at Jessica and realized something. He snapped his fingers, and then Jessica felt her body suddenly return to its best state. This made Jessica can't help but say in surprise, "Oh my god, can you do this kind of thing?" "Of course." Liang shrugged and smiled. Jessica came behind Leon with her back hand, and she lowered her head like a cat to Liang's face, her eyes scanning the book in Leon's hand. "You want to see it?" "No, I'm just curious," Jessica said and lifted up. She glanced at the time and then said, "I'm going to school, Leon, we'll see you in the evening." "Okay." At present, the two of them get along like ordinary friends, but no one will think how crazy the two were last night. Some things don't need to be said. It's all in a tacit understanding of each other. Just like the coat Jessica was wearing at this time, it was actually a coat of Leon. Episode 28. Leon and Jessica Jones had a fantastic few days in quick succession. During the day, the two will go around in their spare time. At night, there is no need to talk about the two. For Liang, although the current experience is good, it is not too intoxicated. But for Jessica Jones, who was just a college student, she was already basically intoxicated by the pleasure that Leon brought her. In other words, she was already on the verge of becoming the shape of Leon. And when the two of them spent a good time like this, and news about Stark directly caused a global sensation. Super-rich Tony Stark mysteriously disappeared, suspected of being kidnapped. The moment this news appeared, the stock market in the United States plunged sharply. This is enough to see the importance of Tony Stark. It is nothing more than that the news of the other party's disappearance can sensational the world. S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing nothing else now. Dedicate yourself to rescuing Tony Stark. Various organizations in the United States have been sent to the Middle East one after another to search. Just because of this one person, it can be said that he has moved the world. Liang lay on the bed and watched the various heated discussions of mobile phone netizens on this matter, and couldn't help but smile. No matter what era it is, there will always be no shortage of gods who point out on the internet. These people will always bring simple happiness. "Leon, are you concerned about Tony Stark's disappearance?" Jessica asked, sticking her head out of the covers. Her face was a little red, and she seemed to be a little angry. Liang stroked the other party's hair and smiled. "I didn't care that much. Put your phone down if you don't have one. I don't like it when you have to be distracted at such a time." "Well, it's my fault." After Leon apologized, Jessica got into the quilt again. Liang also slowly closed his eyes and enjoyed this moment. And when the two were so beautiful, Tony, who was far away in a cave in the Middle East, was struggling to wield a hammer. Clang! 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 With the sound of metal handover, violent sparks burst out again and again. Soon, soon. When I'm done, you'll all wait for me. The anger and grievance in Tony's heart can be said to have reached an extreme. He hadn't felt such anger since Tony was born. On the one hand, this anger comes from his current state of imprisonment. On the other hand, it comes from witnessing the use of their own company's weapons in unjust wars. Especially this last point. It made Tony extra angry. Because this not only means that innocent lives have died because of him, but also that there are traitors in his company. Damn it. After cursing secretly in his heart, Tony smashed it down with a hammer again. Ethan, who was on the side as an assistant, looked at Tony silently, hoping that Tony's plan could succeed. That way, he could escape. After many days of hard work, Tony finally created a rough steel armor. Now he looked at the steel armor in front of him with infinite joy. Because it represents the hope of escape. But he didn't know that the gears of fate also began to turn at this moment. That future for Iron Man is coming. Ethan, this time has really worked hard for you, thanks to you, otherwise this armor cannot be completed. Don't worry, when we go out, I will directly let you come to my company as an executive. Tony patted Ethan on the shoulder on the side. This is a friend that he rarely recognizes, who is arrogant by nature. Everything will wait until we go out. Ethan interrupted Tony's thoughts. Tony was not angry, and then he entered the steel armor in front of him with Ethan's help. Then, with Tony's operation, the armor began to gather energy to prepare for the official launch. The low sound of power agitation brought smiles to both Tony and Ethan's faces. But at this moment, the terrorists discovered the abnormality and broke in with guns. In order to buy time for Tony, Ethan immediately took up a gun to resist, but was eventually knocked out by bullets. But at this time, Tony's armor was completed. With the official activation of the armor, an angry Tony used the armor to kill the enemy in front of him. But the power given to him by steel armor can kill people, but it cannot save people. He could only watch Ethan die in front of him. Don't waste your life. Ethan's last words before dying made Tony cry. This made Tony Stark, who has always lived extremely self-ushered in a spiritual shock. In a sense, it was Ethan's death at this time that led to the Iron Man behind. Then Tony wears armor and kills the audience, and then falls into the desert during the escape. Fortunately, there was no major problem with him. The military also rushed to pick him up. Then the news of Tony's safe return shocked the world. While countless people were vying to discuss this matter, Leon looked through the void at Tony, who was lying on the back of the car, and showed a slight smile. The dream he gave Tony Stark will soon begin. Episode 29. The turmoil caused by Tony Stark's disappearance did not end with his return. On the contrary, the turmoil has intensified. Even to the point that others cannot understand. At the first moment of Tony Stark's return, he called a press conference. At the press conference, media from all over the United States and the world gathered here. In the face of countless flashes, Tony Stark only spoke briefly. And because of this paragraph, the stock market in the United States was once again brought by him to crash. I decided to close the arms production department of Stark Industries. The moment this sentence was spoken, Stark Industries' stock began to fall. Then came the chain reaction that caused the US stock market to decline. For a while, forums across the United States were talking about what Tony Stark wanted to do. It's just that no one can guess what is going on in his heart. The turmoil has not yet passed, and then a new news has attracted the attention of the public. A humanoid armor known as Iron Man began to live in places where terrorism was rampant around the world. The other party has an amazing level of technology. It's like traveling back in time from the future. The level of technology represented by Iron Man's armor makes many people think of Tony Stark himself. Because everyone knows that this playboy is a genius ahead of his time. Assuming that he developed this armor, then everyone can understand. But Tony Stark did not come out to respond. When Iron Man's melon is still being talked about by the public. In New York, two steel armors appeared fighting in the streets. One big and one small. The small armor is the Iron Man that has been appearing recently. The combat effectiveness of the two sides is extremely strong, and the impact caused is extremely chaotic. After the incident was over, a rumor began to circulate on the internet. Everyone is saying that Tony Stark is Iron Man. It seems to clarify rumors in general. Tony Stark held another press conference. Just as the media speculated about how Tony Stark would prevaricate them this time, Tony Stark faced the world with the words that opened the gears of his destiny. I'm Iron Man. Brooklyn. Today's bookstore is still as quiet as ever. Leon sat quietly behind the counter reading a book, while Matt was choosing a Braille book. Outside the bookstore, a march is breaking out. The magnitude is far greater than the religious processions of some time ago. Matt came to the counter to scan the code and swipe the card, and Liang asked casually while operating. What's going on outside? Do you know about Iron Man lately? Of course. That group of people is denouncing that Tony Stark should not enjoy such epic-making high-tech privately, and they think that they should share armor technology for free. Hey, America really has surprises every day. Who says it isn't? In the face of Leon's taunt, Matt really shrugged. In other words, is the woman who has been with you all this time your girlfriend? Matt asked. Leon knew that Matt was referring to Jessica. It's just. Leon recalled his recent relationship with Jessica in his mind. It seems that neither party has mentioned boyfriend and girlfriend matter, although both of them are doing boyfriend and girlfriend things. So how should he answer? Leon's brief thoughts, Matt thought a little. It's okay, I understand. Matt's mysterious smile made Leon feel a little speechless. This time is very suitable for a sentence. What do you understand again? What's wrong with her, you ask? Leon asked. Nothing, just curious. Matt seemed to want to say something, but he eventually snorted and chose to hide his true thoughts to himself. Although Liang was a little curious when he saw this, he didn't ask more. After Matt and Leon said goodbye, they walked out of the bookstore with their books. As he walked towards his law firm, he was a little entangled in his heart. This time of getting along has made Matt regard Leon as his friend. So as a friend, there are some things that should be reminded. Matt can rely on his extraordinary senses to detect the difference in Jessica Jones. He was worried that Liang would suffer some unknowable harm in the process of getting along with the other party. After all, Liang was just a normal person in his opinion. But how should he speak? Do you want him to reveal his true identity? Matt thought about it for a long time, and finally could only sigh silently. His identity must not be revealed. That would only bring harm to those around him. In this way, he can only serve more snacks to Leon in the future. Thinking of this, Matt couldn't help but admire Liang again. Be able to attract the favor of an extraordinary woman. Liang, it's really yours. Episode 30. California. On the seaside cliffs of Malibu stands an extremely luxurious villa with a modern sense of technology. Everyone knows that this is the home of the super-rich Tony Stark. Countless young models and Hollywood actresses are eager to live in a place. Tony, who is dashing at the end of the day, returns to his home. He casually tossed his coat aside and threw off his shoes. Today's day tossed him miserably. The women all wanted to squeeze around him, but fortunately he had Pepper and Harpy by his side to help him block it. Jarvis. Welcome home. Just as Tony was about to ask Jarvis to turn on the light, he saw a black figure standing in his living room. The figure of the other party seemed to melt into the darkness. And when the figure slowly walked out of the darkness of the living room, Tony saw the other party clearly. Oh, it's a black man. No wonder it's so dark. I'm Iron Man? Tony Stark, do you think you're the only superhero? Nick Fury said with his hands behind his back and a tone that Tony extremely disliked. Tony really hates someone pretending to be mysterious in front of him. Mr. Stark, there are many people like you, but you don't know it. Who are you? Why is it in my home? At this time, Tony was very annoyed in his heart, but he still maintained a reluctant calm. Because he knew that the people who could break through Jarvis's defenses and enter his home silently were not ordinary people. Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, that's the one who always comes to me. What Dolson's boss, huh? It's Coulson, not Doyleson. Tony spread his hands, and then pretended to walk up to a certain house office as an unintentional one. As soon as there is a slight mistake in the conversation to come, he will start immediately. So, what are you coming to me for? I've come to you to talk about joining the Avengers. Avengers? It really sounds like some kind of mysterious organization in a comic. In a sense, we are indeed that mysterious organization. Nick Fury smiled lightly. Tony looked at each other with a slight frown, and then asked. So why did you come to me to join you, that Avenger, eh? Mr. Fury, I'm sure you understand my character, and I would never join such a mysterious organization. Tony's words did not surprise Nick Fury, and the Black Brine chuckled. What if I say this organization has something to do with your parents? When Nick Fury said this, Tony's expression froze. Nick Fury left. But Tony's heart was not at peace because of the other party's departure. On the contrary, his heart became more anxious and tangled. What bullshit justice and reasons for maintaining world peace that Nick Fury said in order to persuade him to join the Avengers, he didn't care at all. Because he knows these official organizations too well. But for their own parents. Tony, on the other hand, couldn't give up and ignore it. Although they have been away from Tony for a long time, Tony's feelings for them have never dissipated. It's just that this part of the emotion has always been hidden in his playboy exterior and has never been seen by outsiders. What a piece of shit. This is the most intuitive representation of Tony's mood at this time. He sat up from the couch, poured a glass of whiskey, drank it, and walked into the basement. He hopes to use his work to ease his mood. But no matter how much he fiddled with the wrench and screws, his restless heart could not be calmed. Tony cursed again, then dropped his tools and went to the bedroom. He lay in bed, and the memories of his parents kept opening up in his mind. After sighing, Tony got up and poured himself another glass of whiskey. Immediately, he closed his eyes and decided to sleep. A moment later, the snoring sounded. I don't know how long time has passed. When Tony's consciousness wakes up again, he comes to a strange space. This is a world where everything looks extremely hazy, and his position seems to be floating in the sky. And below him, it was an ancient city of great grandeur and complexity. It is made of a variety of different stones, which are neatly cut into regular shapes and stacked together to form stone pillars and various temples. Tony, who has a very high level of mathematics, physics and chemistry, can see at a glance that the arrangement of these stone pillars and the hall conforms to some mathematical law. It seems chaotic, but there is actually a logic hidden in it that he does not know so far. The streets of this ancient city are extremely lush with greenery, tall trees enough to shade the entire street, countless flowers and vines entangled and blooming on the streets. Even the Central Garden of New York cannot compare with here. Tony looked closely at the ancient and mysterious stone city. He tries to discover the mysterious mathematical laws hidden in the city. But in the next moment, he saw the huge cylindrical tower standing in the middle of the city. The tower is like a pillar in the sky, which makes people involuntarily awe it after looking at it. Diamond-shaped windows dotted the tower, and the light shone through the windows into Tony's eyes, and he couldn't open his eyes. Tony's instinctive curiosity made him want to get close to the tower. But the next moment, the picture in front of him turned. A tall but invisible-looking creature appeared in front of him. In a trance, the creature touched Tony with a long tentacle-like wave. The moment Tony came into contact with the creature, Tony on the bed suddenly opened his eyes. Phew, phew. Tony gasped, and an extremely rich feeling of heart palpitations filled his heart. Was it a nightmare? Tony covered his forehead and thought back to his dream. But he couldn't think of anything.